Hello, and welcome to another episode of Vibrant Legacy Wellness Podcast. And today we have Victoria, and I'm so happy that you're here with us today. And I am just going to let you introduce yourself.
Yes. Hi, thanks for having me. I'm so excited. Um, I was telling you before we hit record, like I never really know how to introduce myself, but I'm a spiritual coach, an intuitive. I joke that I'm sort of psychic. And I specialize in energetics and subconscious transformation, and I really try to help people get to the root of their issues and create really fast, um, effective changes in their life.
So before we get started, I just want to let everyone know, just so that I can speak on this from a point of knowledge, I did do a mini session with Victoria. And so, Victoria, before we even talk about kind of that, all that, can you just kind of go give us a quick summary of how that happens?
Yeah. I am a certified Psych-K facilitator. And there's obviously different modalities to hit the subconscious system, right? You can do hypnotherapy, you can do RTT, you can do EMDR. Psych-K is one of those modalities that I personally find uh, fast and effective. I don't have a lot of patience and energy and time to sit through like a 1 hour hypnotherapy session to work on one belief, which is hence, my name, the Rapid Renegade. Challenging status quo, doing it really rapidly and moving on with our lives is kind of my thing. But Psych-K uses muscle testing and body posture, and it's done in a conscious state. So like hypnotherapy is done in kind of that theta brainwave. You're kind of talked into a more suggestible state. Psych-K is something that you are in control. And I think when we first started a session, I kind of equate it to like you're in the driver's seat and you say, this is what I want to work on, and this is where I want to be, and this is how I want to feel. And then I say, great, let me get you there in the fastest, most effective way possible. Right. So I'm kind of your navigator when it comes to the subconscious system. I'm communicating with the subconscious system. And what it allows us to do is create, our conscious awareness is one thing, but our subconscious programming is another. And so wherever we're created, or experiencing disharmony in our lives, or dissatisfaction, or frustration, or um, pain of any sort, it's because there's this disconnect between our subconscious and our conscious. And so what we work on is up leveling your subconscious to meet your conscious awareness so that we can really create more peace in our lives. It also settles the nervous system and creates more expansion. You mentioned feeling physically lighter, right? So we can relieve stress, we create more expansion within the system, we settle the nervous system, and we create more capacity, um, and you know, uh, ability to kind of receive more in our lives and to really live the life we want to live.
And I will say that I could physically feel the difference in my body as we were doing it, but I also feel the difference in like my mental and emotional state, if that makes sense to you. I feel like for me, I felt like I physically felt the difference, but I also felt like emotionally I felt calmer, and then mentally I felt a little bit more, I wouldn't say clear, but I just felt like less, like there was a moment during our session when I felt very flustered. And in the session, in the process of what we were doing, I actually felt the fluster feeling go away and I felt the clarity come in. And
Yeah.
so, and it's
Yeah.
funny that you say that this is more of a conscious thing, because even though, yes, it is a conscious thing, as you're going through the process, I feel like I could feel it on the unconscious level.
Yeah, yeah. So what we're doing is we're really bringing the unconscious to conscious awareness, right? And then you're so attuned to your own energetics and energy. So it's like you're noticing these little nuances, right? And you're so connected to that. And everybody experiences it very differently. But yeah, we're kind of blending the super conscious, the conscious, and the subconscious or unconscious, and doing all of that work. And then I also use the emotion code and the body code, and so we're looking at it from several different angles of energetics with your human design. We're looking at it from a belief level. We're looking at, are there trapped emotions in the body connected to this? And how can we create um, more expansion for what you want in life, right? And so yeah, you do feel it on all those different levels, and it's almost like we're hitting it from different angles. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's been the most profound healing modality I experienced. And it's funny you mentioned like you recognize it on a mental level. Like when I had my first session, you know, what I was dealing with was a really difficult relationship with my mother-in-law where I was in like a trauma loop. I couldn't even hear her name. It just was like, when you get to the point where like somebody's like, pass the ketchup and you're like, here's the fucking ketchup. Like that, it's like it's not about the ketchup, you know what I mean? That was where I was at. We talked about this on our call. Like I'm a 4-1. My line 4 really wants peaceful relationships. And to have a relationship in my life that I have to be in, like I don't have a choice, right? Unless I want to leave my husband, which wasn't what I wanted to do. Um, it was really challenging. And after my first session, I closed that loop. I created new beliefs and she came over the next day and it was like I was witnessing myself like having this experience and being like, I feel completely at peace. Like, and it was like, does anybody else see how like, it's like you want to be like, who else sees this, Because it's like you're witnessing your own growth in real time. And it can be kind of mind blowing, honestly. Like, and when you actually shift your perspectives, and you had a balance where you were like, oh, okay, like I could start to see evidence of this belief, but I wasn't able to see before, right? So it's really fun.
And I feel like a lot of times we want to say like things like this are either you have like I kind of feel like you have these, and I know you and I were talking about not fitting into boxes earlier, but I kind of feel like people have boxes for this, like, oh, it's just woo woo, or oh, it's just, energetic, it's just spiritual. And I am an energy worker too. I'm a Reiki master. And so I do work on energetic level. And I feel like when you work on things like this and you're working on that level where you're not necessarily just working with the physical, whether you have deep spiritual beliefs or not, it's such a spiritual experience. Even if that's not what you acknowledge it as. And I feel like when you're doing spiritual work on yourself, it's such a deeper healing process.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And it's like there's a quote in one of the books from the man who channeled this system. Um, and it says Psych-K is a spiritual experience with psychological benefits.
I love that. I honestly feel like I went to a therapy session, but
Yeah.
with instant results. Like I feel like I went to a therapy session for a few months, but I feel like I got way better results than if I had gone consecutively.
Yeah. And it's, so many of my clients say that. They're like, what you just did in one session was like 5 years of therapy, but I feel better. Like, it's like I went to 3 years of therapy and I felt actually more like shit because I now knew more, right? I now understood myself at a deeper level. I understood my mother-in-law at a deeper level. I understood our enneagrams and our, attachment styles and our backgrounds and our all of the cognizant awareness created more emotional distress for me because it was like, well, I know better, but that doesn't help me relate better. It doesn't help me forgive it for actually forgive. It doesn't help me feel at peace in this relationship. It doesn't help me navigate in a way that feels good and aligned, right? And so my first session, it was like all of that shifted and I was able to feel a difference. I was able to experience peace. I was able to feel connected again and like not enraged when her name came up. It's like that was big for me. I don't want to feel enraged with my mother-in-law's name. Like that sucks. And now, 5 years later, like we were sitting on the couch the other night and she was babysitting and I was like, you're such a good grandma. Like, you're the best grandma, Like, and she was like, what? And I was like, you're the best grandma. And she was like, oh my God, that means so much, right? And I know for a fact, had I not done this work 5 years ago, like I wouldn't be sitting on the couch telling her that.
You can feel the difference. Like I can honestly say I felt the difference immediately. Excuse me. And it feels like a healing process. Like how you're talking about going to therapy. I feel like when I was doing therapy before, I felt like I was getting a deeper understanding, but I wasn't actually doing the healing work. I
Right.
wasn't doing the shadow work. Like even I was working on my own, but I feel like in the therapy session, I wasn't necessarily getting to the solution, or I was getting to the solution very slowly. I instantly feel like, oh, that's the solution, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. And I think that's important, right? It's like we have to recognize, and I think so many of us have done this where what we're looking for is the felt healing, the felt expression of the emotion we're looking for. And we try to do that through conscious awareness, through courses, through coaching, through therapy, through tools, through modalities. And very few of them actually give you that feeling. And that's why I love Psych-K so much, is because it was like I was searching for that feeling of relief for so long. And then to finally feel it after 1 hour in this modality, part of me was really pissed off that I had been trying so fucking hard for like 3 years, right? And like spending a lot of money and effort and time doing it. And then part of me was so relieved because it was like, this is the feeling I was looking for, right? And to your point, it's like, it is healing. It's not your conscious mind trying to get you out of a circumstance you don't like. You like the more and more that you're using your conscious mind to figure things out, to create solutions, to think about how to communicate a boundary, all of this mental exercise and mental gymnastics you go through actually doesn't heal you. Like they're not on the same channel.
Agreed. And then I think at like I think that the hardest part about this is that it's not mainstream. And I think that's the problem with a lot of things. They're not mainstream. And so people don't realize that this is so beneficial. Like, I just want to tell everybody you need to do at least one session.
Yeah. You do feel relief after 1 hour, right? It's like, and to your point, I think it will become more mainstream. I think as everything evolves, right? Like therapy was something that was super helpful because that was what was available at the time. And now we have more and more kind of coming online and more like even human design, right? Like this has been around since 1980, I want to say 70s, 80s. But now it's just hitting mainstream, right? More people are aware of like what, at least they've heard of human design, right? Whereas 5 years ago, I remember being like, what? What is this? Oh my God, right? And digging into it. But it's such a validating system. And so it's just we're early adopters, right? Like we're the ones, and we're in that field of energetics and we understand the power of spirituality. And so we're going to find those things probably faster than, mainstream does. But it's conversations like this that help it get to more people and to bring more perspective and to give your lived experience of it, not just me talking about what I do, but like how did you experience this? Like thinking about, going into the session versus how you came out of the session, you're a totally different person now. So like I would love actually to for you to even express that, because I think it helps in other people maybe identifying with your story to be like, "Oh my God, I feel that way," or like giving them hope that like you're a lot. I felt very hopeless before I found this modality. I felt like I tried everything. I spent a lot of money. I was overwhelmed. I was exhausted. And I was like, well, I don't know what the fuck to do. Like, I feel like I've tried everything. Right. And so I want people to know there is hope. There is something you can do to shift it. But we need to have more conversations like this. And I would love to hear your perspective.
I think that not only that, I think we need to have more things like this. I just want to share some about my session with you because it was not what I was expecting and in a good way. Like we started off with me, you were like, what's the one thing that you want to work on? And I thought we were just going to work on that one thing, which is I just wanted to improve my relationships, right? Like with others and just some of my thoughts around relationships, especially specifically, just me trusting people in relationships and not just romantic relationships, all relationships. And it's funny because as we go through it, so many other things came up that I needed to work through and heal. And I was really surprised because some of the things I was like, oh, yeah, definitely. These are things that I've tried to work on before in the past. And then just other things that were just very unexpected, and it just all came up attached with this. And then we end up, I feel like you start off with this idea of I want to work on this one thing because you think that's the issue, but then as you go through this process with you, as I went through this process with you, I realized that wasn't the issue. That was more of the manifestation of all these other issues. And it was just how these other issues presented themselves, or how it affected my life. Like it was these other things were affecting my relationships, but I had no idea. And I think like I don't know how many years of therapy that would have taken me, but I'm pretty sure because I've this is something I've talked about in therapy before, and I feel like I didn't get to these answers as quickly, and I feel like we got to it so quickly. And I think it's really important for to note that like you think you're going for this one thing, but then you're gonna all these other things come up. And I feel like this would definitely, at first I was like, okay, well, it's probably something you do one time. And I feel like, no, I definitely want to do another session and like think of like what else is it that I want to think about. But I feel like I went through like almost an awakening process of like, like I can feel the light and I'm like, oh, like I feel like I want to go journal about it after and write down stuff and tell people, okay, then look, you think that's what it is, but go get one of these sessions. I guarantee there's going to be deeper stuff.
Oh, that's such a beautiful articulation. I love that so much. Like, yeah, and I think our conscious mind is really good at identifying the problem, what we think is the problem, right? Because it's the pain point we're experiencing. We are aware of the friction in our life and that manifestation of it. And by using that as an anchor point, I like to kind of think about it as like, okay, that's our anchor, right? I want to talk about the situation. I want to talk about, and I want to hear how you're describing it, right? The reason I take notes in sessions is because our subconscious is always communicating. And I want to use words that you use within your belief systems because when we talk about our pain points or we talk about the struggles we're going through, what I hear and sense is what's underneath it, right? So the reason that we're able to get to the core of the issue is because I have a natural ability to understand what's underneath that, right? Like, what are the beliefs and what are the pain and what are the traumas and what are the emotions and what are the stories underneath this experience? And being a physical empath and sort of psychic, I joke that I'm sort of psychic, but I have claircognizance. So sometimes it's hard to know, like, is this my psychic ability or is it just my sensing, whatever. But I get certain information within sessions. And so like even with you, I was like the word safety was coming up, the word trust was coming up, right? And so when we're in session, because I'm connected to your consciousness, like you're thinking that this problem is here, but I'm like, okay, but the feelings that you want are trust and safety and security, and then you're ideating and workshopping on how would I want to actually feel. And it's it is always so beautiful. It's like a flower or an onion that you're just kind of peeling back, and it's like one session is super beneficial, like 100%. But where the fun shit lies is when you keep doing it and you're building into your future. I mean, my life is totally fucking different than it was when I first started this work, right? Like, and I'm constantly finding shit that I believe. Like, I believed the other day, like, it's a man's world. Like, that's not helpful for me. Like, again, we were talking about those boxes, right? It's like constantly shedding things that I didn't realize I had. And what I do now is that I tune into that collective consciousness. I create workbooks to help with the awareness part, right? So I create workbooks that people can download that allow them to work through some of these things around certain themes that are going on in the collective consciousness. And then I'm hosting live Zoom calls to work through it and to do subconscious change in a way that's more of group format, but allows people to feel that sense of relief and to create some new empowering beliefs around that topic. And then, of course, you can do more one on one if you want to, but it's so important because it's not just a one and done. Like, we have a whole life of experiences and trials and tribulations and traumas, and it doesn't need to take 5 years. I mean, I do it every week, twice a week, but that's because I also am in this work and I'm constantly uncovering shit, right? But you can do a huge amount of work in 4 to 6 sessions, which is only like 4 to 6 hours of your time. Like, it will totally transform your life, Like,
I can honestly say I feel transformed after one session. So I can't even imagine. But you said something really important that I want to kind of go back to, and it was using our words. And I feel like that's so important because I noticed like during our session you said something to me and then you kept saying, no, I feel like that's not the right word. And you were like, what's the word? And then I can't even think of what it was now that I said to you. What was it? Um,
Oh, hold on, I have my notes. It
okay.
was abandonment.
Yeah, because you said something and I kept saying, no, that doesn't feel right.
Yeah, I
And
was like, it's something around forgiveness of people leaving you. Like it's like leaving you, but it's not the right word. And you were like,
yes.
yeah, it's abandonment, right? So
And then it was like something clicked. Even when I said it to you, I was like, oh, and then all this other stuff came up just from that one word. And then like it brought us all back to it kind of made everything kind of come full circle. And so I think it's just so important because a lot of times when you go to therapy, you don't use like you're speaking in your voice, you're speaking in your words, but you're not speaking in your voice.
mm-hmm.
Like
You're
you're
not
just
speaking from your pain. It's
yes.
like you're well, at least in my experience of therapy, it was like, I want you to help me figure this out, right? I want you to give me a strategy that I can use within this situation of my life that will help me feel better, right? I wasn't using therapy in a way until I did IFS. IFS therapy is the only talk therapy that I will ever recommend. I really love IFS therapy, but I was more like using it as a strategy session. Like I wasn't using it as I want to heal this. I want to feel, although that wasn't my intention, I wanted to feel better, right? But to your point, it's like we don't use, and oftentimes therapists don't get you to the right word to provoke the emotion to then create the healing. It's like that's not really what they're there for. Whereas me as an energetic and subconscious specialist, like I'm attuned to the frequency of words and how you're saying them and what's underneath it all, right? And so yeah, it's always, I say we workshop things, right? Like I'm getting information, but it's like what is emotionally resonant for you, right? How would you word this? Because me saying one thing isn't necessarily going to resonate in the way that you might.
Did you just do that on the screen?
And I think I did. Well, I don't
Oh,
know.
okay.
Jim sometimes does things like that, and I don't know how to replicate it.
It's okay. I was like, that was really neat. But I think a lot of times with therapy, we think we're going to heal, but the way we approach it is not in a healing way. And I think it's really hard for a therapist to get you to that point because when we go to therapists, we also don't always tell the whole truth
And if
because
they're not asking the right questions,
we're
right?
just answering the question or we're just going down where they're guiding us. But I feel like when you do something more on an energetic level or a spiritual level, you kind of don't have a choice but to just dig down a little deeper. And I'm not saying that therapy isn't good because I think therapy is good, but I think that you get to a point where you have to move beyond maybe and do a little more
Yeah.
or do a little different or not go that conventional route. And again, that goes back to I feel like we need to have you back and have a whole episode about not living in the box.
Yeah.
Like,
I could go on and on and on and on.
I am actually going to be, I don't know when we're posting this yet. We are pre-recording, but I definitely will be posting something about living outside the box. And I feel like the more I talk to you, I'm like, we need to make this into a series and have just a bunch of people talking about being outside of the box
I
because
100% agree with that. I love that idea. Like,
I
how
feel
do
like
you break out of the box? Like, we
yeah.
all need to break out of the box, and we have so many boxes. Like, and I'm going to be launching a group accelerator in January 9th. And it's kind of centered around that idea. It's an authenticity accelerator. And like, we talked about it before we started recording, like, in order to be authentic to who you are, like, you have to break out of the box and you also have to feel confident enough to do that. And you have to feel safe enough to do that. And you have to be okay with other people not being okay with who you are. Right. And that to me, like authenticity is the greatest emotion, right? It's the most powerful. But when we're constantly faced with projections and expectations and societal programs and all of these things that are built to keep you small and disconnected from yourself and from your intuition and from your knowing, it's it can feel hard to be authentic to who you are. And there is a desire for a lot of people to want to step into that full authenticity. And so like that's why I created that accelerator. It's 9 weeks and it'll completely fucking transform your life. Like, but we have to do that work. We have to do the healing. We have to shed what's not ours. And we have to be very aware of like what in our life is showing us where we need to heal. Like you mentioned, like you were getting all of these kind of lessons, like that were showing you, like, okay, you need to bust out of this box, right? Like uncomfortability breeds growth. And yeah, I could go on and on about all the different boxes and all the different.
And it's really funny because that was one of the deeper things that came up with the
Yeah.
relationships was, and it wasn't even me not being comfortable in the relationships or being comfortable with those type of situations. It was me worrying about the projection and how others viewed it. And again, that's like that box. It's because I was worried about the box because I know I don't fit in the box. Like that's even how I got into all of this. Like my family's a little weird, so everybody expects me not to, my direct family, meaning my parents and my siblings, everyone knows that I don't live in the box. My parents used to always joke that too I was born too late with technology too slow. They were like, you're supposed to be born in a hippie world with super high advanced technology, and since that didn't exist, you got here.
Yeah,
That's kind of like our little joke in my family.
I
So
love that.
but like for me in my direct family, it's not a problem, but outside society or like people that I interact with, that's always been an issue. And I think that all comes back to like my underlining what I thought was the issue. It's really deeper than that. And so I think that even doing this work makes you realize that you're in a box. Like even your issues fall into the box, which is why you had the issues to begin with, is because society said this is the way it's supposed to be. And your soul is bothered by that, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Like there is a resistance, right? It's like I resist the box, but then, on top of the resistance, it's like you have all of these beliefs and perceptions that conflict, right? It's like we have to, you don't have the belief, right? Or you have conflicting beliefs. It's like, and so sometimes it's like, okay, well, we need to create harmony between our beliefs, or sometimes we need to install a new belief, or sometimes we need to shift our perception around this because, that energetic awareness on a subconscious level of society judging your relationships was still manifesting within the relationship. And it's like you didn't want it to, but it indirectly, what it well, directly and indirectly was affecting the way that you were then expressing in that relationship. That like outside noise was so loud and infiltrating what you actually wanted and ruining what you wanted.
Very true. And I think I'm inviting you now. We're gonna have a deeper conversation about all of this and being in the box. I'm inviting you now to be on my new series and we will talk about it later offline. But
Love it.
I came up with all of this as we're talking. So
I love it.
I know that both of us are on a bit of a time crunch today, so I want you to leave us with some last words. And also, I will leave all of your contact information, including your accelerator program. We're definitely going to put this out this year so that people can find out about it and sign up for it. So we will leave all of that. So just tell us a little more about your program and just how to get in touch with you and any final thoughts.
Yeah, thank you. I love this. And thank you for being like willing to experiment and like go through the process. Because I was like, you invited me on your show, and I was like, I would love to do a subconscious session beforehand so you can, talk about it from your own experience. So thank you for that. Yeah, I'm the Rapid Renegade on Instagram, on TikTok, the Rapid Renegade at gmail.com. If you are interested in learning more about the accelerator, you can email me at rrvip at therapidrenegade.com. I just set up that email. So RR for Rapid Renegade, VIP at rapidrenegade.com, and I can send you more details about that. There's several ways to work with me. I do my, monthly workbooks that you can download. I'm doing guided meditations to go with them. A live Zoom call that you can register for where we go through the workbook and the themes of the month and facilitate subconscious change on that Zoom call. You can book one-on-one sessions with me. I do free discovery calls. My website is therapidrenegade.com. And yeah, I'm launching this 9-week accelerator in January, and I'm really excited because my line 4, like I need to be able to be in community with people. And so I'm kind of blending the best of group coaching with subconscious integration. So it's going to be part group, calls and education and awareness. And then we're going to have probably 4 independent one-on-one sessions throughout the 9 weeks for this subconscious integration for exactly what we did together, right? Like conscious awareness is great, but we need to integrate it. Awareness isn't anything without integration. So
And I
yeah.
will leave all of her information in the description box, in the comment section. And if you can't figure out how to contact her, contact me and I will make sure to get you connected. Do you want to leave us with any last words?
Yeah, it doesn't need to be so hard.
Oh, that's perfect. I love that.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be hard. And if you feel like it's hard, it doesn't need to be, and book a call with me because it doesn't need to be hard.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us again. Thank you for letting me experience the actual process. And thank you everyone for joining us for another episode. Remember, true wellness isn't just about the body, it's about nurturing your mind, your heart, and your spirit as well. Keep your energy high, your spirit bright, and your soul nourished. Until next time, stay vibrant and stay well.